Hi everyone, I'm David Wojcik and this is MBOT TV. Stories we covered this week: Advocacy Day at Queen's Park, our NGen event floods Scatabush, we investigate doing business in China, MBOT celebrates International Women's Day, BDC opens a second new office in Mississauga, we visit a unique hoteling concept in a shopping mall, and our weekly political update with Brad Butt, who has news on the new leader of the PC Party of Ontario, cannabis money for municipalities, a budget date for Ontario, and another entanglement of red tape for business from the provincial government. Welcome to MBOT TV, a weekly recap of what happened in business at the Mississauga Board of Trade and around the city of Mississauga. Congratulations to Doug Ford, the new leader of the PC Party of Ontario. The Mississauga Board of Trade looks forward to working with all three parties for the betterment of business in Mississauga and Ontario. Brad Butt will have more on the new PC leader later in the show. Chambers from across Ontario descended upon Queen's Park for the annual Advocacy Day. Chambers meet with bureaucrats and politicians from all parties to discuss the issues of the day. The event wraps up with a meet and greet with the leaders of all three parties along with other political figures. The under 40 crowd flooded Scatabush at Square One for their quarterly professional networking gathering. Close to 100 young business professionals assembled to reconnect with colleagues and make those all-important connections to advance their business relationships. MBOT partnered with the Mississauga Chinese Business Association to promote doing business in China. Chinese dignitaries and potential partners gathered to listen to 11 experts in the field. Over 100 professional businesswomen gathered at the Mississauga Board of Trade offices to celebrate International Women's Day. MBOT is committed to support women at all levels of business and provides programming as part of the commitment. The Business Development Bank of Canada opened the doors to its newest office in North Mississauga on Argentia Road. This is the second office in Mississauga, and according to Vice President Sharon Conley, it's required to keep up with demand.
We think there's huge opportunity for the BDC and to service more entrepreneurs in Mississauga. So by having a second location, locating ourselves closer to the proximity of a lot of businesses, we hope to reach more and more of them.
Well, I think we're consistent with our mandate, but we just recognize that the market and the business community here in Mississauga is growing. So we want to be in the forefront of being able to support that community.
One of the tremendous but little-known offerings that BDC has is its advisory services. Executive Vice President Peter Lawler explains more.
BDC Advisory Services really focuses on helping companies to scale, to become more profitable, and become more productive.
Hoteling in the office space would be very common these days, but what is not common is the type of space we found at Mindshare. With a DMZ incubator feel, but for established entrepreneurs, founder Robert Martellacci explains what Mindspace brings to the table.
We're Canada's leading EdTech strategy news and events organization, and now we have a workspace that will help support you and nurture you to innovate, connect, and grow.
You can visit the space at Erin Mills Town Center on the lower level of the mall. MBOT's annual business directory is gearing up for its 2018 edition. This directory is distributed to thousands of businesses in Mississauga and is a one-stop source to find suppliers. Don't miss this opportunity to promote your business and brand. Would you like to see your business advertised to hundreds of Mississauga Board of Trade members right here every week on this banner? Call Sonia Oja or Hillary Jewer for details and elevate your brand today. And now for our political update with Director of Government Relations, Brad Butt. Brad?
Well, thanks, David. The Ontario PC Party has a new leader after a nail-biter convention over the weekend. Former Toronto City Councillor Doug Ford will lead the party into the June 7th election. Mr. Ford does have considerable business experience, which we hope will translate into policies and actions in support of the business community. The Government of Ontario has announced that it will provide $40 million over 2 years from the federal excise tax on cannabis to municipalities to help them prepare for and deal with the pending legislation and legalization later this summer. MBOT had submitted a resolution to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce calling on 25% of provincial monies to be shared with municipalities. The Fairness in Procurement Act has passed in the Ontario legislature that would call for retaliatory action against U.S. states that impose Buy America provisions in their local procurement. The Ontario Chamber Network does remain concerned about the escalating trade wars through these types of measures and hopes the province will be guarded in using these actions. Ontario Finance Minister Charles Sousa announced March 28th as the day he will deliver his last budget of this legislature before people go to the polls on June the 7th. The minister has already signaled he plans to run a deficit after getting Ontario back to balance this year. Last week, I participated in a roundtable with the Ontario Minister of Immigration and Citizenship, the Honourable Laura Albanese, hosted by the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. Discussions around foreign skilled workers dominated the meeting, and the minister acknowledged more needs to be done to make it easier for companies to bring these workers into Ontario. The Government of Ontario has tabled a bill in the legislature to create the first ever Pay Transparency Act that will now require all publicly advertised job postings to include a salary rate or range, bar employers from asking a job candidate about their past compensation, prohibit reprisals against employees who discuss or disclose compensation, establish a network framework to require larger employers to track and report compensation gaps based on gender and other diversity characteristics to be determined through future consultation. Once fully implemented, these measures would require employers to publicly post that data within their own workplaces, in addition to reporting them to the province. While pay equity efforts are certainly laudable, business remains concerned about the implementation and viability of strict rules in an ever-evolving workplace. We'll be monitoring this bill very closely. Well, on March 8th, U.S. President Trump announced that both Canada and Mexico would be temporarily exempted from the 25% duty on steel and 10% duty on aluminum imports while NAFTA negotiations continue. This is a welcome reprieve, although the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and others are calling for a permanent exemption from these tariffs. The 7th round of NAFTA negotiations concluded on March 5th, with most saying progress is being made on a number of key elements. The toughest parts of the agreement have, however, yet to be discussed. And finally, on trade, Canada and 10 other countries signed the Comprehensive and Progressive Trade Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership on March the 8th. This agreement represents a major opportunity for Canadian businesses to gain greater access to the fast-growing Asia-Pacific region. Back to you, David.
Thanks, Brad. And here is what's coming up at your Mississauga Board of Trade. On March 14th, Good Morning Mississauga is at PAF BMW. Come out and experience a luxury car while networking. Book a speaker spot. Where else can you make over 100 cold calls in just 2 minutes? On March 20th, join a webinar on the truth about chronic mental stress and how your organization could be at risk. On March 22nd, come and hear the story behind Molly Maid, one of the most successful franchises in Canadian history, which started right here in Mississauga. On April 4th, Membership Matters is at MBOT, a session for new members to discover all the great benefits that your Mississauga Board of Trade has to offer. Seasoned members are always welcome to stop by for a refresher. On April 5th, our annual Politicians Reception brings together MPs, MPPs, municipal politicians, and school trustees to gather for a meet and greet to discuss the issues of the day. And save the date for our annual MBOT 9 Dine and Network Golf Classic on June 20th at the Royal Woodbine Golf Club. Details about these stories and events are available at www.mbot.com. Until next week, this is David Vorchik wishing you continued success in your business.